What do you want to do?
I don't know. We don't have an intro after 6 months. Welcome back to the Glaziar Gamble podcast. I'm Mychal Glaziar. This is Joe Rybolt, and we are here to talk to you about sports. We do have two sections. We have a Marvel section / entertainment and sports section. The one you've clicked on here is sports. You probably tell that based on the headlines, thumbnail, whatever you want. Whatever you saw.
Sports.
And sports. We got some good stuff to talk about today. We got some NBA discussion with Dame Lillard having a quote that he had taken out of context a little bit. We have some Anthony Davis talk from the Lakers. We have some Minnesota Timberwolves talk a little bit. And then we have some good amount of football talk, including Minnesota Vikings. I want to have an honest discussion about Kirk Cousins. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. What you're thinking, what you're maybe not thinking. I want to talk about some Kirk Cousins. And then we have some around the NFL discussion. And let's jump right into it with the first discussion, which is NBA. Damian Lillard recently had a statement saying he wants to play with another star that's defensive minded. The players that he listed were Jaylen Brown, were Ben Simmons, and Aaron Gordon. The reason it got so viral was because of Aaron Gordon and how people are like, Aaron Gordon doesn't play defense.
I think the thing with him is that he is like the defense, like his size is very versatile.
Right.
So whether he might not be like a Timberwolves Patrick Beverly or Jared Vanderbilt or Ben Simmons level defense, he can play good defense across a wider range.
1 through 4 confidently, and then small ball 5s.
Yeah.
I agree with, but when it comes to, like, when you think defensive player, I think of at least 10 before Aaron Gordon even comes to mind.
Yeah.
But the one I wanted to discuss was Jaylen Brown. Because we've discussed Jaylen Brown 2-3 times on this podcast already.
We had the top 25 under 25 or whatever.
Yeah, and then we brought up the fact that he was in discussions for the Celtics were fielding calls on him, and we were like, what are we getting wrong about Jaylen Brown?
Yeah.
Well,
we still don't know.
Because I still think Jaylen Brown is amazing.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Well, Damian Lillard, everybody says probably second best shooter in the NBA right now, one of the top players currently in the NBA, and so he probably knows basketball. He wants to play with Jaylen Brown over one of his best friends, CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
He would probably prefer both, but he clearly means I want to play with somebody like that over CJ because that's who'd be included in the trade. So he'd rather play with Jaylen Brown. What? To me, that says he's probably really good.
Yeah, and if you think about the 3 players he listed, Jaylen Brown probably has the highest, if you're saying that like a defensive ceiling or an offensive ceiling, I'm putting my hand on the screen, offensive ceiling and a defensive ceiling, and you put both of those levels on each player's, Jaylen Brown's probably has the highest. Yeah, comparatively, because Ben Simmons is defense and then offense.
And Aaron Gordon's arguably hit his ceiling.
Right. So Jaylen Brown is his values on both of those ends are probably higher than the other two.
Absolutely.
We got to be missing something. If there's any I can't do Boston Celtics fans because they all think he's garbage. If there's any other NBA fan that sees what we see when we see Jaylen Brown.
Do you think Jaylen Brown is really good? Do you think Jaylen Brown is who's better, Jaylen Brown or CJ McCollum? Would you guys as Celtics fans be happier with CJ McCollum over Jaylen Brown? If so, why? I don't know. I feel like Jaylen Brown is super good. Joe does too, and I don't understand why people don't think he's this stud. I get he got hurt and Jason Tatum outshines him, but if you really pay attention, Jason Tatum, if they took the same amount of shots every night, there's a good chance Jaylen Brown scores more.
Yeah, and I mean, you can save this debate for another day, but I think Jaylen Brown's better than Jason Tatum. I've said that too. So,
and I get that's a problem.
If you say just scoring the basketball, Jason Tatum's better, but
even then,
it's a full player.
If they both shoot 20 shots, I feel like Jaylen Brown's going to make 9 and Jason Tatum's going to make 6.
Maybe he's just more, but Jason Tatum's more offensively, athletically gifted when it comes to that.
Yep.
Jaylen
Brown devotes his time to both sides of the field. Field, yeah. Both sides of the court.
If he was playing football, I'm sure he would.
He probably would.
Because he's on the court.
Yeah. guys always want to dog a grinder or whatever. Like, he clearly plays both sides. He's a grinder. Not the type of grinder I'm usually on, but Jaylen Brown likes to play.
You're talking about playing both sides.
It's talking about playing both sides. And, you know, Jaylen Brown really plays defense, and I would rather have him over Jason Tatum, so I don't get it. But anyway, that quote went out. Ben Simmons obviously is in discussion. I think if the Trailblazers and the Sixers did a trade, they would want Lillard for Simmons. So I don't think that one would happen.
Yeah, well, Philadelphia is delusional. So when it comes to their inquiries
teams
and
entirely,
what they want. So
yeah. Anyway, so that happened. I don't understand why people don't like Jaylen Brown, considering a player like Damian Lillard wants him. Aaron Gordon, I'm interested. It's interesting to see that he
just signed a fat new contract with Denver.
Yeah.
So like that's Denver obviously sees him as a piece going forward.
Which when he signed that, we talked about how it might be because they made that trade for him, so they felt like they had to.
Yeah.
I mean, to match that contract, you'd have to trade for somebody like McCollum. When I don't know if he's worth it.
Yeah, I don't even know if Aaron Gordon would be considered. Like, I'm sure, like, if there was a good enough offer that he would part with Denver. But Denver looks at their team, and you've got, you know, essentially like four very good players. You got MVP quality, Jokic. You've got underrated scorer Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon can do what he does. They're obviously very high on MPJ. And it doesn't really matter who the shooting guard is. So
yeah, I mean, they don't have Gary Harris anymore, but they don't really. I mean, is it Will Barton still, or
Will Barton?
Yeah, so I think he's pretty good.
Yeah.
They picked him over Malik Beasley.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Nuggets don't need to make a trade.
Nuggets don't have to make a trade.
They don't need a McCollum. They Jokic, Murray, MPJ is enough scoring.
Yeah.
Like if the Nuggets the Nuggets needed something, it's more like the Timberwolves. The Nuggets need they're very built similarly, and the Nuggets need a big center that can both relieve Jokic when he needs to sit, so that maybe they can play 5 or 4. And in like the last 5 minutes of the game, you run both of them out there together. So you have I think the Nuggets, if the Nuggets make a trade, they should go out and try to get Myles Turner. Somebody like that. They could trade an Aaron Gordon for Myles Turner.
Yeah. So other than that, outside of like a backup big, which every team needs a backup big, they just need shooters. Like every team, like when you ask like what they need, more shooting can obviously answer answer the question.
That's why everybody was so surprised by the Hawks last year. They're like, the Hawks came out of nowhere. If you look at the Hawks roster, it's John Collins and Clint Capella, who are good scorers on their own, but are primarily like really good defenders, and everybody else just flies threes. Like you got Trae Young, Herter, Hunter, Reddish. Yeah. They're built to shoot.
Yeah,
that's what the NBA is, and so. If I'm the Blazers, I'd rather have McCollum and you.
Blazers have more problems than just one.
They need to trade McCollum and Dame. It's time to blow it up because this roster can't do it. The ownership needs to admit that they haven't built a good enough team. And
Nurkic too. Just anybody not named Dame.
I thought you were gonna say just nuke it.
Nuke it with Nurkic. I mean, in theory,
just get rid of them all. Like.
I don't know.
That's what if I'm the Blazers, I don't. If you trade for Aaron Gordon, you also trade for somebody else. Like I would blow it up.
Yeah, nuke it.
Yep. That's what we have to say about that.
The Nuggets. This is just a random thought. The Nuggets should be kicking the heels on like Terrence Ross from Orlando.
That'd be weird.
Just a scorer, just a shooter.
I'm not a fan of Terrence Ross.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, but like in the years of the Orlando Magic, it's like he was dropping 21 points a game.
Right.
Didn't
he win a dunk competition?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he won the dunk contest.
For sure, the Thrill Barton did, and everyone's like, "Who calls you the Thrill?" Nobody.
Glenn Robinson III did too.
Yeah.
Right. Or did he take second?
He's like in Indiana. Yeah, he took one. After the Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine days.
Yeah.
You can't beat those dunk competitions.
Agreed.
It's been
even Dwight Howard, Gerald Green. I wouldn't necessarily say that Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine match those. Yeah. But I mean, it's not the same. No point. I want more just like sort of skills competitions.
Yeah, I agree. Or one of my favorite competitions when it comes to All-Star break is how they have an NBA player, a WNBA player, and an NBA legend. And they have to shoot that'd be cool. Like a layup and then free throw, a 3-pointer, and then a half-court shot, and whatever team can do it the fastest.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Anything like that is
one.
fine. Even something ridiculous like a game of lightning.
Yeah.
Would be fine.
Yeah.
Random tangent, but keeping with the NBA discussions, we had the one that. So we were going to talk about it. We had it in our notes, and then all of a sudden I start seeing these big sports networks talking about it, and we try to avoid what the sports networks talk about too much. But then again, sports networks were just talking about something that we talked about 2 weeks ago, so we're ahead of things. So one of the things that the sports networks talked about was Anthony Davis no longer being well, they were talking about how he's not a number one. That's been the headline for the big sports networks, is that Anthony Davis is not a number one. That's not the angle I took it from. So I was watching the game the other night, the Lakers game, and he got dunked, or he was going up for a dunk, and at the top of his dunk got blocked by somebody who is listed at 6'9", but they don't look 6'9", because AD's listed at 6'11", and he was much shorter than AD. And he goes up, challenges AD at the top of his block at dunk, and blocks him. And I just think out of other guys that are considered top 10 players, I can't think of a single one that people challenge on a dunk, like top 10 drivers and scores. Like, I don't think somebody goes up to try to stop Kawhi. I don't think somebody tries to go up and stop LeBron unless you want to die. Giannis, again, you will die.
Hell, even Anthony Edwards, you're going to try, but then you're just going to get humiliated.
Even if you go up to try to stop it, it's not going to go well.
So
I just think he's a big, an athletic big who's considered like a freak, and yet he got contested on a dunk by somebody much shorter than him, and he got stuffed. And so people are saying, like, yeah, he's just not a number one guy. But to me, it's more of, he's not, in my opinion, he's just not a top 10 player anymore. And he's whatever. He's soft. I was trying to dance around it. He's soft.
Here's kind of, we had very similar mindset on Paul George a couple years ago. I want to say it was like Thunder Paul George. Okay, and
Thunder or Rockets, one of them.
Yeah, so just Paul George, we just didn't think highly of. Mm-hmm. But then, in my opinion, he played once Kawhi went down last year. He played how everyone expects Anthony Davis to play right now.
Yeah, when that star is hurt, you take
40
over.
Points per game, like sole carrier of the team. Absolutely. And that's what everyone expects from Anthony Davis when LeBron's working his way back in.
And it's ridiculous because he's averaging 25 points a game and 10 rebounds, and we're upset with him. But it's like, that's number one player stats,
right?
But he's not getting that usage. I think they signed Russell Westbrook because they knew Anthony Davis can't be a number one. They thought Russell Westbrook would be able to step in case LeBron ever needed time off. But Westbrook's not good enough to step in and do it, right. And he's not efficient. Yeah. You need an efficient superstar.
They should have gotten what worked for them when they won. They had a veteran point guard, mm-hmm. right? That can, when LeBron's not carrying the ball up, they have a veteran point guard that can run the offense, and then just shooters everywhere.
If I would have been Rob Pelinka, I would have went out and got Ricky Rubio.
Yeah. Another one that you said last week, I believe, was Patty Mills.
Or Patty Mills.
Patty Mills would have been amazing for them. I think
starting point guard, they should have gone Ricky Rubio. Much cheaper. And I think Patty Mills would have been the perfect sixth man. And then if those didn't go through, Buddy Hield. If you got Patty Mills, Ricky Rubio, Buddy Hield, your team now, as it's constructed, would be over 500.
Yeah. Instead of dancing.
Instead of going for Russ, Melo, DeAndre Jordan was the biggest. Melo's been good. Russ has been what we expect. Yeah. Honestly, and then DeAndre Jordan everybody knew. I mean, the Nets let him go for free.
4 second-round picks. Yeah, they traded him to get out of that contract for 4 second-round picks. So.
That should have never been. I mean, there are guys like JaVale McGee. There could have gone and got Tristan Thompson.
And I mean, they traded Montrezl Harrell too. Yeah, that could have been another bench contributor.
You mean the guy who shot like 24 for 25?
27 points on the Wolves.
Yeah, who missed one shot while scoring 27 points. There's so many guys, there's so many mistakes that were made building this roster.
It's almost like they overdid it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, all right, well, what can we do better? When in reality, what do we think we can do better rather than what is actually better.
And I do think a huge part of it is they let LeBron. I think LeBron's always had say,
Right.
and this feels more like LeBron had the decision making. Like normally he's had input,
Right.
and I think now it's more input, less input, more decision making.
Yeah.
And that's just what it feels like to me. But yeah, I don't think Anthony Davis is a top 10 player in the NBA right now. I don't think so. I mean, I listed a top 10 to Joe in a text, and can't just. I don't want to.
How many can we name right now? Steph,
KD, LeBron.
Steph, KD, LeBron, Giannis,
Jokic, Embiid.
Luka, Embiid, Harden, still probably better.
Yep. I would put Harden.
Beal is better.
Yep. You're already at
Sabonis.
10. I would take Sabonis over AD.
So maybe go up and down the list.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell.
And then if you count personal bias, I'd rather have Cat.
Yeah. Dame. Cat.
Cat's the same way though. He's not a number one mentality. That's why I'm glad we have Ant. Well, but sticking with the Timberwolves and Cat, Anthony Edwards in a recent interview, did you watch it? Where he called out Cat. He said after the game, he told Cat that he needs to be more aggressive, that he needs to move faster, he needs to take the ball and go towards the hoop. He's like, you get the ball and you stand there, like, come double me. Like, what are you waiting for? Be quick.
Yeah.
And, so that's what, overall with Anthony Davis, that's to me the same with Cat. They're very similar in terms of players. They used to be guards in high school. They had late development, and then when they went to college, they became bigs. And then now they still play as a 7-footer as if they're 6 feet tall.
Yeah, I think another thing with Cat is like he's been so conditioned in his past seasons that he would catch the ball and be instantly doubled. So he's waiting for that to happen, and that is obviously a tool. Like he's great passing out of a double team, but like if you're offensively like. You're a finesse player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and your moves are generally
Yep.
like better and quick enough that you can beat whoever's guarding you, especially if it's a 5.
And that's what Ant said. He's like, nobody can guard you 1-on-1.
Yeah.
And he said they double Embiid every time. He just moves quick enough where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what Cat needs to do, and it's 100%. That's if Anthony Davis, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Joel Embiid went for the bucket every time they got the ball, they would all be almost 30 points a game.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit of, like, Cat's conditioned to one thing, and he needs to kind of get out of that mindset, and Ant sees it, because, like, Ant's like, this is what we're a different, like, Ant's obviously like, this is a different team. Like, we've got people all around. And Cat needs to change his mentality, too. It's like, you can dominate. Like, Cat can still dominate a game, be the number one option. He can do that, but like you need to take more control on especially the offensive side of the floor.
Cat could be a Sabonis type triple-double big.
Absolutely.
A Jokic type triple-double big.
Yeah.
He's got good vision. He can shoot the ball, so we know he's going to get the scoring. He just needs to be more aggressive to get the rebounds, because right now I'd take Anthony Davis, Vanderbilt, all as better rebounders than Cat, which shouldn't happen when you're 7 feet.
Right. I mean, the other game he had like 32 and 16, but there's also
there's some games where he gets 20 rebounds.
Yeah. So do that every game.
Right. You obviously can do it.
Right.
It's just an effort thing, and we've talked about that with the Wolves. Finch says, for some reason they only think they can play defense in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Show effort.
Pat Bev and Vanderbilt do it the whole game.
Which is why Pat Bev was added to the team. Show people show these young players what it means to actually put in 48 minutes of effort.
Apparently, there's some rumors that they're starting talks with Pat Bev to get a contract extension.
If you paid attention to the early episodes when that first happened, I was so mad and not happy with it. I couldn't be happier he's on the team.
Yeah.
He's perfect. He's a perfect fit.
It's weird how they haven't talked to Taurean Prince at all.
Not weird at all. And if you can make Reid aggressive too, he'd be.
He's slow, but like offensively, he's a very good player.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, he's a little slow, but he's also stronger than.
I would
say,
also
Cat
like
is.
Bolmaro to be running guard.
Yeah, like
I
the
get-
backup point guard. He started in point guard.
I know.
The other game.
Everybody was talking about he's a small forward, power forward. No, he's a guard. He played point
Oh,
guard
yeah.
overseas.
6'9", but or 6'8" or whatever. But
So is Luka.
Yeah.
So is LeBron.
Yeah.
I get he's not those players.
he's better than giving minutes to McLaughlin.
And he's just like, why play him out of position?
Yeah.
Cat has been playing his whole career out of position. He's been playing the 5 when he's a 4. Why play another player, Bolmaro, out of position? He's a point guard. Put him at point guard. There's no reason Bolmaro should be a wing. He is a point guard. So D'Lo can move to the 2. Ant can be the 3 if you want him to start. Otherwise, he'll be a perfect backup point. Have Pat Bev be the 2, and then on defense, just have Pat Bev guard the 1 or 2.
Bolmaro's a great defender too.
Exactly.
Great
Pat
defender.
Bev's,
Yeah. But like for a second unit, that probably has a Malik Beasley who's not.
A great
defensive
defender,
orient.
especially because with Bolmaro there, he can now guard 3.
Yeah, but you also have Jaden McDaniels in that second unit. Who
Right.
can guard.
Their bench is so good. If you can get Nas to be aggressive and Cat to be aggressive, we officially have a starting 10, like our starting 5 plus our backup 5. All are super. You have a 10-man rotation, which is the minimum requirement. You have to have 10 good players.
The only
to be a championship
thing
team.
is like the backup 4 is kind of a question mark because you couldn't run Jaden McDaniels
for
there.
10 years we've had no backup 4.
Yeah, no backup 4. So that's what I'm saying. Is like you get a starter in there, like say like a Myles Turner.
You get a Myles Turner as your
And Vanderbilt's now your backup 4.
I don't know what the Wolves would be able to give up to get Myles Turner. And Myles
Probably
Turner
Malik
also
Beasley.
right, and Myles Turner also said that he wants to have a prominent scoring role because he doesn't like where he is right now because he's basically a role player there.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be a role player. So that's the thing. I think Myles Turner would be happy elsewhere, but he would be a perfect fit on the Wolves.
One more thing. The Wolves have been without D'Angelo Russell last couple games. We've lost last couple games. And I just want to speak to how valuable D'Angelo Russell is. So when he's not in there, our offense is basically two-dimensional, right? We've got Cat, we've got Ant. They both kind of do solo ball. But D'Angelo Russell is actually 22nd in the league in plus-minus, and that makes you think, I'm not saying D'Angelo Russell is an amazing defender, because I don't think he's an amazing defender.
Is it plus minus or PER? Aren't those different things? Or are those the same?
I think they're different.
Okay.
So in league plus-minus, he's 22nd in the league. He's behind basically every Golden State player because Steph just outscores everyone, and everyone's plus-minus is ridiculous in Golden State.
They run Steph creates gravity towards him, and everybody's open.
Yeah. So the plus-minus when Steph's on the floor is absurd because basically all the Golden State Warriors are on there. But when D'Angelo Russell's on the floor, and I assume this is with our starting lineup of Pat Bev, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, Vanderbilt, and Cat.
God, that's so good.
Yeah, that lineup outscores people like crazy. So just the fact that the Wolves are missing D'Angelo Russell right now, we don't really have a chance without our big three. That's kind of like our core to our team. We need that in order to win.
Right, and D'Lo's shown that without him, we just don't have consistent scoring. They can double Ant as a guard. They can double Cat as a big.
Yeah.
They can shut down one of your 2, and you can't have a solo act.
Yeah.
So, but with D'Lo there, you have at least 2 people that can help you out. Yeah, but that is it for basketball talk. Let's move on to football discussion. We have actually quite a bit I wanted to mention. The first thing I want to talk about was congratulations, Daniel Carlson. Signs a 4-year. He's now the 3rd highest paid kicker in the
Vikings
NFL.
had someone like that.
The Vikings could use a kicker like Daniel Carlson.
However,
He did miss 3 field goals in a game and like 2 extra points.
He missed 3 field goals, 2 extra points within the span of like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then when the Raiders came to town, I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm like, all right, he has a chance to win this game. I was like, he will miss this kick. And sure enough, he missed the kick in US Bank Stadium to beat the Vikings.
Right.
It was just kind of...
He's a great kicker, but it's clear that something with the Vikings, he has a mental block because against or for, he can't make kicks.
Yeah.
So go ahead and say the Vikings flopped on Daniel Carlson, but that's just not the case. No sane person, if you go back in time, 10 times out of 10, they're going to cut a kicker who misses 3 field goals against a rival team.
If he was placed on practice squad, someone would have signed him.
Yeah.
So,
Is like congratulations, deserves it. He's been the best kicker in the NFL for the Raiders basically, but obviously Matt Gay, Chris Boswell. There's been a couple better than him, but he's basically been right up there with those guys. He deserves it, but maybe getting out of Minnesota was just what he needed. Maybe Vegas just suits him better.
And outside of the Arizona kick, Greg Joseph has been better than Dan Bailey. Outside of Dan Bailey's like stretch of midfield,
right?
But Joseph
hasn't been bad.
Yeah.
Yep. They just
untimely misses, I think,
which is every Vikings kicker.
Yeah.
Named the last Vikings kicker that made probably Longwell, but Longwell couldn't make it outside of 50.
Yeah.
He had no leg. So
like 42 was like his max. It's like, is he gonna make it?
Yeah. Yep. It was. I think his career long for 10 years was 52.
Yeah, he didn't kick long.
Which, for reference, my longest kick in high school was 52 or 53, one of the two. That's not good. I was not even a collegiate kicker. Shouldn't have the same as an NFL. Should not have the same career long as an NFL kicker.
Yeah, but you got some thick legs, thick thighs now.
I got to do some thick thighs, and there's nothing big obstructing their movement.
Exactly.
Just basically nothing.
Pure
there.
muscle down the sides.
Yep.
And then just
in the middle, just
a little
smooth movement. Can really swing.
You can hear the ocean if you get your ear close to it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sticking with football, actually. So, this is a podcast. There was another person that started a podcast back in the day, not too long ago, a few years ago, about sports, named Pat McAfee. He was actually somebody that got me through working a shit job. Like, I put my headphones on, actually with Bluetooth headphones because I wasn't supposed to be wearing headphones, so I put Bluetooth headphones on and hid them underneath a hat.
I would be way more productive at work if I could put like headphones in and just listen to like my death metal and just like do things.
I worked at a deli, and so I usually just one Bluetooth headphone in and hid it under a hat and just listened to Pat McAfee. That's what got me through. Like, I listened to our local sports in the morning, and as soon as Pat McAfee started, boom. And this was back when he started earlier in the morning still, but now he starts a little later for me. That's fine, because I quit to do this. And he was like an inspiration to quit and just pursue what you want to do. And, he just signed a 4-year deal with a 3-year opt-out with FanDuel for like $30 million or something. If he was currently in the NFL, he'd be one of the highest paid players.
Daniel Carlson's the 4th highest paid kicker, and he just signed 4 years for 18. So
yeah, and so it's pretty cool to see something like that happen for somebody that just took it on a whim. People told them not to do it. I had multiple family members tell me I need to make sure I'm doing something else because you can't sustain something that doesn't pay you for a little while. Yeah, I mean, it's worth the risk, but he donated day one. He's donated $6 million of that already, and that's what I want to do, is eventually donate. As soon as I'm making money from doing these sorts of things online, streaming, all that sort of thing, I plan on donating at least half of everything I earn, just because that's what I've always wanted to do. I don't think people need obscene amounts of money. If you have obscene amounts of money, it should be given. And Pat McAfee did that right away, so I just wanted to say, from me, as somebody who was a small streamer, small podcast, somebody that inspired me, it's very cool to see. So I want to talk about that. Awesome, Pat McAfee, just so cool. Just
applause.
Yeah, that was a full round. Anyway, now on a lighter note, not as so heartfelt. Vikings fucking suck.
Woo! Right into it.
Yeah.
Just use the butter, just slather it on.
The Vikings are so bad, and they lost to the now no longer winless Detroit Lions.
There's a minute and 44 seconds left in the game. Our boy Sammy P was over. He was making earrings for his mom and sister. Hopefully they don't watch this because I just ruined their...
Well, he watches it, but I don't think they do.
Yeah, so spoiler alert. No, so he was over, and I was like, how much you want to bet the Lions go right down the field and get a walk-off touchdown?
And that's exactly
what happened.
For those of you that watched last week, I said I picked the Lions to win.
You did.
Joe picked the Vikings. I picked the Lions. Why did I pick the Lions? Because I thought the Vikings were going to screw it. The Lions play hard every week. One of my favorite quotes of all time is actually from a video game, but it's "Fear a man with nothing to lose." Fear the team with nothing to lose. The Lions had nothing to lose by giving it their all every week. They have nothing to lose by getting an injury because they're out. They have a 1% chance of still making the playoffs, but they have nothing to lose, so they're going to be playing hard every down. If you don't play hard every down, they win. And they just... With Clint Kubiak as your offensive coordinator, it doesn't matter if you play hard because you're following a terrible scheme. And
once Thielen got hurt, it was basically one-dimensional Justin Jefferson, which he had a monster game, right? Like 170 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he had 14 targets, 11 for 14.
Which is what it should be like every game.
Should be. Yep. Should get 15 targets a game.
There should have been more inclusion of... We talk about this every freaking week. More Conklin, more KJ Osborne. They should get more targets. But it's just one-dimensional.
It should be a more diverse offense. Should be a more modern offense. And people were talking about how, you're mad at the Vikings when they don't go for it, but now you're mad at the Vikings for scoring and giving the Lions a minute and a half. Yeah, it's not every game is not the same.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a minute and a half to go. The Bears beat the Lions on Thanksgiving Day, I believe it was, by purposefully running down the clock and kicking a field goal at the end of the game so that the Lions didn't get the ball back.
Yeah.
You should have just done that. Yeah, it's great. Like, stats, give it to your players, make sure they have a great job. But my bold prediction of last week came true because of what we did. I said Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And he scored the touchdown.
Yeah. So we are now 1 for 7 on 2-point conversions this year. Okay. If we would have scored if we would have just gone for the extra point and made all 3 extra points, we would have been up by 7 at the end of the game instead of 4, right? The Lions would have had to kick a field goal or kick an extra point to tie it, and we still would have had a chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
So,
multiple different avenues of how they could have won the game.
Yeah.
But they gave it away because that is the identity of the Vikings this year. That's why they're losing all these close games.
Also, all of our DBs were 5 yards back in the end zone. We were playing prevent from the 10-yard line, and they're 5 yards deep in the end zone.
So, for those of you that did see the play, Cam Dantzler took all the heat. But for those of you that understand football and defensive plays,
it was charged to Woods.
Xavier Woods is the big... So both of them are at fault. But that was Xavier Woods' line because Cam Dantzler's role in that defense was to stop a fade. So the second that the receiver crashed and was showing they weren't going to go deep, Cam Dantzler could have come in, which is what he did when he tried to make the play. But Woods should have started at that moment because if Woods starts up close, that receiver has to either run into Woods and they have to go over the top of Woods, which then Dantzler would be there behind him as well. Or if that receiver sees Woods up, maybe his option route is now to go for the fade. Dantzler is where he's supposed to be. So Dantzler did his job. He just, as soon as he saw Woods back, he should have crashed early.
Yeah.
It's just hard because he's gonna get if they go for a fade and it's wide open, then he's told, why did you crash?
Yeah.
So yes, they made a mistake there, but that was all Xavier Woods. I don't know what Xavier Woods was doing. That was a zero IQ play by Woods, and that was a zero IQ defensive setup.
Yeah. The whole drive. We were prevent the whole drive. There's no pressure whatsoever. We 3-man rushed the whole drive. And eventually, with the receivers running around, someone's going to be open.
Do you know which quarterback has the fourth, since he's entered the league, has the 4th worst passer rating under pressure?
I'm going to take a wild guess here and go Jared Goff.
That is correct. He is just behind players like Sam Darnold. I believe it was Josh Allen, since last year didn't happen, would be there, but Josh Allen was up there. But he's behind players like Sam Darnold and Case Keenum.
It's a little skittish
Yeah.
Can't get accurate.
Yeah. And instead, they decided to rush 3 when all game rushing 4 and 5 was working really well. I just can't believe the Vikings gave away that.
I don't know. I mean,
that was
we'll have a conversation about the offense and Kirk later, but there's 30th ranked defense.
Yep.
Zimmer's known for his defensive guru.
D-backs are just not. Harrison Smith can't carry 5 positions.
Yeah.
It just can't happen.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Alexander played his worst game of his career.
Cameron Bynum was hurt.
Yep.
So can't
but
argue him.
For those of you that like to break down plays, I know I like to get nerdy with it, but Mackenzie Alexander was out of position so many times. I don't know what that was a nickel playing like he wasn't a nickel corner. I just don't get it.
Yeah. 30th ranked defense. You're gonna lose games.
You're gonna and it's not all injuries because we have great backups.
Yeah.
They're above average. They're not as good as the starters, but they're above average, and it's just unacceptable, really. But yeah, congratulations, Detroit Lions. I actually like the Lions.
Did you see the
dedicated the game ball to the Michigan shooting? Class move.
The tweet I had about Jared Goff?
No. What'd you say?
I just saw a very cute video of his girlfriend, who's I believe a Sports Illustrated model.
Yeah.
It's very cute, very heartfelt. She was super excited for him. So
that's good. Very nice. Congratulations to both of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were very happy.
Yeah.
I heard that it might have had a hostage situation going on.
Possibly. Let's just say that before the game, I might have spit on you there.
That's okay.
That's what happens.
I usually like that.
Before the game, and probably after the game, Jared Goff was already winning. So
got it. All right, congratulations, Lions, but special congratulations to Jared Goff. Sounds like.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't see it. 16 times. So anyway, we wanted to continue talking about the Vikings because they are terrible. But this week, they're actually playing right now. So we won't be doing a game breakdown because we don't do Thursday Night Football because by the time the episode comes out. But they're going to be playing against the Steelers. And
3.5 point favorites.
3.5. I don't get why they're favorites over the Steelers. They're so bad. The Steelers are also so bad, but still,
Yeah, but the Steelers still squeaked out a win versus the Ravens, so...
We didn't.
We did not.
Yeah.
No, I think if you want to say, NFL record was what we're coming up on in opponents scoring in the last 2 minutes of halves. Mm-hmm. And I believe you could go to that Baltimore game and probably find 10 to 17 points that was scored in the last 2 minutes of the halves. So,
but yeah, so that's it for the Viking Steelers. The other thing is I don't have any games this week that I wanted to preview. They all seem so obvious. There doesn't seem to be that game's gonna be down to the wire. Who's gonna win it? They all just seem so obvious. And
I haven't looked.
So
let me just take a look here.
What I thought about all these matchups and the fact that they feel so obvious is either there's going to be the most boring weekend of football ever, and it's just going to be, the who we thought won is going to win, or there are just going to be upsets upon upsets with teams that are in first jumping, getting beaten by somebody who's in last. You're going to see something like the Jets win, the Houston Texans win. You're going to see stuff I feel like it's going to be one of those weeks where it's going to be what is happening in football, or it's going to be so boring.
There's a lot of games where it's very equivalent skill levels are going. So you've got teams like the Seahawks and Texans, right? That could go either way. You have no idea.
Right.
The Texans have Houston. The Texans have zero rushing attack. Absolutely zero. Rex Burkhead ran 8 times for 40 yards last week. But Seattle's also the number 2 worst rushing defense in the league.
And they have Tyrod Taylor. Texans have Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, so you have no idea. And then you got games like Rams Cardinals. 2 premier teams, you have no idea which way they're going to go.
I guess that's probably the best game to talk about would be Rams Cardinals.
Bills Bucks.
See, but that's the thing. Bills Bucks feels like it's a Bucks win, especially because it's in
Raiders
Tampa.
Chiefs.
And Cowboys football team is one of the biggest rivals in history of football, but it feels like a Cowboys easy because Dak's 6-1 against Cowboys, averages 70% completion percentage. When he's just It just feels like obvious. A lot of these feel obvious, which is why I don't really have anything specific. I think the Cardinals beat the Rams.
Let's just do the as for the lack of better words, the shitter games.
Okay, let's do the shit games.
All right, so we got Falcons Panthers.
Falcons Panthers. It's at Carolina, so I will say
Panthers by 2.5.
I think Panthers cover that 2.5.
Okay. Next one up, Saints Jets.
You want to do Jags Titans?
We can do Jags Titans.
Yeah. At Tennessee, I think
whatever
the line is,
missing,
Titans cover.
Basically, Tennessee's missing like their whole starting offensive weaponry.
They don't need them against the Jags.
All right, next up, Saints Jets.
Whatever the line, both of those teams are just not great. Yeah. Taysom Hill, probably a better quarterback than anything the Jets have right now because I don't think Mike White's there anymore.
Exactly. Seahawks Texans.
Again, two just terrible teams, especially this season. I think Texans win it.
Okay. Well, I also think the Texans win it. Yeah. I think the Texans are horrible.
Before the season started, we said Seahawks weren't good.
Yeah. Like I thought the Texans were. I think the Texans are horrible.
Oh yeah.
But I also think the Seahawks are horrible. So.
And the Seahawks don't even have a first-round pick.
Or their starting safety, which they paid like 3 first-round picks for. He's out for the season.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, Lions Broncos. Broncos by 10.
Broncos 10, probably win, but I think Lions cover that.
All right. That's it.
Yeah. Bears gonna lose to the Packers. It's just the games all seem obvious. So it's either gonna be tons of upsets or all the favorites are gonna win, even if they don't cover. I just feel like favorites are gonna win.
And if you were one of those 8 teams that we called the shitters, you know what? We don't apologize because we're Vikings fans.
Vikings are also shit right now, so we're one of the shitters we're right along with you. We are Odell Beckham level adoration of shit. So we're right there with you.
That's a whole nother term. When thank God he's on the Rams now, because that brings a whole nother difference to the Cleveland Steamer.
Very true. Very true. God, you're gonna distract me if you keep this going. So, we're gonna keep this moving to our last topic of discussion. Then, so that's it for NFL talk, except for this last topic, and then we'll send you on your way. Bigger, brighter things. My number one recommendation after we send you on your way, besides checking out our gaming channel, which is getting a rebranding. I'll make sure to link that. Maybe check out the Twitch stream. But number one thing I'd recommend is check out our Marvel section of our podcast. Anyway, last topic: Kirk Cousins. You already mentioned it. 30th ranked defense. Terrible offensive coordinator, probably the worst offensive coordinator I've ever seen. Right behind his dad. And
no comparable O-line. We had one for a couple weeks in there, and that's kind of when we won. But you need the specific pieces. You need Darisaw, you need Cleveland, you need Cole, Udo.
Right. The offensive line's just not consistent. We've talked about this before. Joe, we had a clip. We have a clip on Twitter right now. Check it out. Joe called Kirk Cousins a Hall of Fame quarterback and said that with a Super Bowl win, Kirk Cousins would be in the Hall of Fame because of his stats. I'm pretty. I can be pretty harsh on him sometimes. Pretty harsh on Kirk, but I do think he is a wonderful quarterback who is really good at stepping up, especially when the pressure isn't necessarily there. Like if you put him on a neutral field with no fans, that I feel like Kirk Cousins is going to outperform a lot of quarterbacks. However, I think the Vikings do have a Kirk Cousins problem, but it's not what you think. It's not primetime games. It's not he doesn't know how to handle pressure, because there are good quarterbacks out there that with bad O-lines, they can still do well. But when you combine bad O-lines with getting pressure, it doesn't go as well. But there are quarterbacks, superstar quarterback, number one quarterback out there can adapt to those situations. But we even saw in Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes couldn't do it. I think the Vikings' Kirk Cousins issue is the salary. They can't afford the defensive players that would help them out because he has so much guaranteed. Like, I think that 30th ranked defense comes from, yes, Gladney is not there. Yes, certain players didn't develop the way they wanted them to, and certain free agent signings like Patrick Peterson, Bashad Breeland both seems like swings and misses. Xavier Woods also seems like a miss. Mackenzie Alexander also feels like a miss.
Yeah, so Tyler Harrison Smith, DBs are ravaged.
And I think a big part of that is, first of all, you're wasting your money on just constantly signing defensive linemen. Yeah, that's great, get after the quarterback, but it doesn't matter if the quarterback only has 2 seconds to throw the ball, because our corners can't defend for 2 seconds. And I think it's the salary, personally. I think he just takes up too large of a salary for them to afford those players that you need. If you look at the New England Patriots, they were terrible last year. Spent the most amount of money in NFL history in free agency, and are number 3 or 4 in Super Bowl odds right now with a rookie quarterback. And that's a rookie quarterback. Yes, they have the number 1 ranked offensive line, but they can afford to sign all those players because they're not paying their quarterback. And it's that cliche of once you pay your quarterback, your team goes down. It happened with the Seahawks. It happened with it's happening with the Chiefs now. Their players they're starting to lose some of those guys that are studs to the point where they have to make trades for people like Mike Hughes. And I think that if he were to take even $5 million less,
I'm gonna follow up your point. I believe this year he's making it comes out to 38.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then next year it's 45.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think the like you said $5 million. I think the 33 to 35 was the first number that came to my head. That 33 to 35 range, maybe even 36, that range.
But as soon as you hit that 38,
is probably where he should be. 33 to is what I think of is 33 is right there. And then the 45 hit is going to be tough to manage next year. But
yes.
But I also think that how they fixed the Kirk Cousins from the initial contract is they've extended him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in my opinion, the Vikings, since getting Kirk, really, or at least this season, they're wasting Kirk's prime. All of this quarterback, or everybody hates Kirk, and they're like, get rid of Kirk. He's the best quarterback the Vikings have had since 2009 Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, exactly. He puts up numbers. He's the reason we even have any wins. Basically, him and Justin Jefferson are carrying this team right now, and it's still if you dropped him down to $33 million a year, this year, next year, whatever. If you kept him at that, salary cap's gonna be highest it's ever been next year.
Yeah.
They're increasing it to $201 million.
Yeah.
They could make moves for guys that would actually be able to help, because people are talking about Xavier Howard, trading for him. It's you can't trade for Xavier Howard. And it's not just because Anthony Barr is wasting away our cap space.
His contract's all vetoed, so he's most likely gone next year.
It's really, Kirk Cousins' problem is not his play on the field. He puts up stats. He follows right in line with a lot of other star quarterbacks, where he gets worse in primetime, worse against teams above 500. So do Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady. All of those guys play worse against teams over 500 in primetime. It's almost as if those are bigger and tougher games. The hardest part about handling Kirk Cousins is you paid him too much, and now it's all on the draft. That's why Rick Spielman has to make sure he gets 11 players per draft, because you can't afford free agents.
So I'm hoping, and this is probably a stretch because it's the Vikings, but I'm hoping with what they did with the one-year signings in Patrick Peterson, Breeland,
Barr's got to go.
Barr's, his thing was vetoed, so he's just ripped this year. So that's 11 mil Patrick Peterson, 4.5 Bashad Breeland, 3 there's 3 Xavier Woods, 2 Mackenzie Alexander. Barr's got 10 mil. You've got that cap room. So now, if you were to extend Kirk and put that 45 down to 33 a year, you turn that 45 next year into 100 over the next 3 years, then you're paying Kirk roughly 33 a mil. It's probably 33, 35, 30, something like that.
Yeah.
and you make the number next year smaller for Kirk, but then give him more in the long run, which I think is what they should do.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you've got so much money to spend next year.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't matter what position you could go out and get a Brandon Scherf who keeps getting franchise tag. You get a player like an offensive lineman free agent. You could have gotten like a Joe Thuney, a Corey Linsley.
And Brandon Scherf plays right guard, correct?
He plays both.
Yeah. So I mean, like, our weakness is, in my opinion, the right.
He's better at right. Yep.
So,
but he can play whatever you need him to play. He could also play right tackle, I think, but we don't need that. Yeah. You could go out and get a stud offensive lineman. You could go out and get a stud D-back. You could go out and get a linebacker, because one more linebacker would make our linebacker core nuts. Yeah. You already have good D-line. Sheldon Richardson, I think, is another one that would probably be gone, but he might re-sign back for cheap. You never know. I think you get an offensive lineman, you get linebacker, you get D-back. All of that would be affordable. Like a above average or stud at all three of those positions is affordable. If Kirk takes a price reduction. You don't
really have to touch the offense at all outside of an offensive line.
Two offensive line positions, because you have Darisaw, you have O'Neal, and Udo's
can't give up on Cleveland.
And you can't give up on Cleveland yet, but you can put Cleveland as a rotational backup.
Yeah, and Cole's okay.
Right. So two offensive linemen minimum.
You don't need tight ends. Conklin is obviously a great tight end.
And
you're getting Irv back.
Getting hurt, yeah. So if Kirk took a pay cut, I think the team could solve all of its problems.
I don't mean necessarily the pay cut aspect can also just it can be resolved by just an extension.
Well, that's the same thing, because that's what Tom Brady always did. That's what Drew Brees did his last 4 seasons.
Yeah, Tom Brady did something weird, really got a 4-year extension, but then they vetoed 3 years or something. I don't know.
That's what they did with Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and now he's still getting paid $95 million or whatever.
Right. And that's all I wanted to say. I have no issue with Kirk Cousins on the field, and I don't think his off-field issue is mental stuff, like mental strength. I think his off-field issue is the contract. As long as Kirk Cousins is getting 30 to 40% of the salary cap, the Vikings aren't winning anything. And I don't see that, unless they extend him and readjust the money, I don't see the Vikings able to solve their problems, because there's nobody in the draft and no free agents that will sign on for cheap enough to actually fix your issues. And there you have it. There is our big topic that I want to talk about, and that's all we have for our sports section. I really appreciate all of you that have come along and listening. We're actually to the point, I guess this is like behind the scenes. You don't even need to hear about it if you don't want. We're at the point on Spotify where we're able to start putting ads on there. So that's all because of you guys supporting us and listening to us. And we wouldn't be there without you. And like I mentioned with Pat McAfee, I started this because eventually I want to turn it into a business, make money so that I can donate that money. If you want to help us grow, especially if you've already listened to this point in the video, drop a like, share us on Twitter. That's where a lot of our views come from. And subscribe. A lot of those subscribers would very much help us out. And we're trying to hit 50, so that I think once we hit 50, maybe we'll go live every time. You never know. So thanks again. You all look great today. Go out in the world, make a difference, and GG.